A lot of people know innovative sponsors, Innovative Field, remarkable place.
I thought you were managing the team.
Yeah, a lot of
Just
people.
a couple signals here.
Right. They think all this weird stuff, and none of it is true.
Some of the big federal contracts, right? Palantir being one. It was OpenAI that just won a $200 million contract with the Defense Department.
Do you remember Humane? You ever heard of them? Its intent was to replace your phone.
Making people dumb thing was interesting. That was like the buzzworthy headline everyone was talking about.
And they found that people who used AI use their brain the least.
What if the converse to the whole thing is it's allowing for people to create more connection? Guys, we made it.
Look at us.
Look at us. This red room. Innovative Field.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
It's a special place.
There's air conditioning. Yeah.
Hot summer day here in the Rock. I think like 100 million people in the United States right now are feeling the heat.
A heat dome.
That's what they called it. Yep. Good day to be at a baseball game.
It's true.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people know innovative sponsors, Innovative Field here in Rochester, where our AAA baseball team, the Rochester Red Wings, play. This is a remarkable place. Some people know the story of how it came to be, but we're really happy to be partnered with the county, who actually owns the stadium. And we have the naming rights. We don't own the stadium. A lot of people call me and they'll be like, "Hey, Justin,
I thought you were managing the team.
Yeah, a lot of
Just
people.
couple signals here.
Right. They think all this weird stuff,
heard
and none
that,
of it
yeah.
is true. None of it is true. We're happy to be invested in the community. Obviously, Rochester, New York is super important to us. So, yeah, it's good. And, it's also a special week because it's Inno Week. For people who know Innovative, we do twice a year. We bring all of our employees together, and about half of our company is remote. Half of our company is based in either Boca Raton, Florida, or Rochester, New York. So this week, we have all 100 plus employees here in Rochester, and soon they'll descend here on the field. And I think one of our employees, Erin Malloy, is going to do the first pitch, which is pretty cool.
She was warming up yesterday. Rocket arm. She's ready.
What do you guys think of Inno Week?
Well, as someone who is remote,
Yeah.
I live in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
It's great to come in, right? Seeing everyone as often as I do is great as a floating square in a Zoom meeting. But coming in, obviously, these in-person conversations are so awesome. Getting to do this is awesome. But in a week as a whole, lots of companies will have their SKO, but once a year. I think the halfway point is great. Another time for us to come together, align on mission. We did a lot of branding things this time as well. But also, have some fun with the work. It's what makes Innovative cool and in a week interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just cool organic conversations that have started happening through the week, and we can always jump on a Zoom together and talk, but just even kind of joking around through the office, we shoot the shit a little bit, but then it kind of shifts back to work and ideas that we've got, and it's been a good flow.
And outside the office, volunteer events. You mentioned giving back or investing in the community, right, in Rochester. A bunch of things that have been lined up, people can choose to do, which is really fun just for volunteerism. Great use of time.
Yeah, we were at Food Link yesterday. I know we were over at Mount Hope Cemetery doing some work. I know that we did some volunteering over at Cameron Communities. These are obviously
Open door mission.
Yeah, and these are really important places here in Rochester. The organizations that we're supporting, some of them being customers, they're really critical. So we, what was interesting is we started doing volunteer opportunities as a thing, as part of Inno Week a few years ago, and it just grew. And this year, by far the biggest give back as far as time and effort and energy. And virtually every employee has leaned into that, which I also think is remarkable. It's a testament to the type of people that we hire and this culture that we believe in supporting and cultivating. So it's special. But enough of Inno Week and Innovative. Let's talk about AI. Let's talk about what's cooking.
Yay.
We got a lot going on, man.
It's been newsworthy. Feels like past few weeks since the last pod, more than ever. I know.
Would you say it's been less about the technology, more about the impact?
No, but I
Okay.
do think impact has risen along the technology, right?
Sure.
There was this breakneck pace of technology announcements, this arms race of tech from the different companies overriding each other. and now I think the business aspect is kind of catching up to it.
Yeah.
So there's co-equal noise on both sides.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's some scenarios where people are studying whether or not, access to AI is making people dumb all the way through, and how do you use AI to reduce the workforce, all the way through
I
how do
think I
you
saw
buy
an
hardware and
article from
systems.
that.
Like there's always like things coming out as people use it more and more and more and more, and how it impacts us.
Well, the making people dumb thing was interesting. That was like the
Right?
buzzworthy headline everyone was talking about. Here's a question:
Yeah.
Is it true?
Okay, so for everybody else, MIT did a study. They just came out with it, like, I don't know, a couple days ago, give or take. They put people into 3 cohorts. They put one group of people who could use AI in their day to day, one group of people who could use like typical search engines, like normal stuff, and one group of people who just couldn't. They got to like figure it out on their own, right? Like go to websites, read books, all these types of things. They hooked them all up to an EKG, and they like, measured their brain patterns. And they did it over the course of weeks. And they found that people who used AI used their brain the least of everybody else. And they did that study for a few weeks, and they are now coming out and saying, maybe not unscientifically yet because it's not like a fully done, completed study, but their first draft of it, they're saying, hey, there's a real outcome here of how much people use it and how it could impact them.
So, headline: Yay or nay? What do you think?
I think it's incomplete.
To me, it's a jump.
Yeah.
It's a jump in.
To say, well, less brain activity in the creative, spaces of the brain, does that necessarily make you dumber over time?
I don't
Well,
know.
what if
Remains to be
what if the
seen.
converse to the whole thing is it's allowing for people to create more connection? So what if the headline was people are thinking less and they're feeling more? Like that wasn't the headline.
True.
Yeah.
They didn't add the second half of the headline.
Right.
So I think it's a really important thing for us to be aware of. I mean, like if we're able to measure this early days, and we're seeing that there is a difference in brain function,
Right.
how does that relate to how people connect? I think from my vantage point, that's the biggest thing we see outcomes around. It's like, all right, we're going to replace a menial task with an AI
Right.
thing, but now that has created openness or connection or the ability for a business to create a better experience for a customer. Later this week, actually, since we have all the employees here in Rochester, on Thursday, I've invited all of our service delivery teams, everybody who touches a customer directly, was from a service delivery perspective. So sales won't be involved, finance won't be involved, human capital won't be involved. It's just real frontline people that are talking to our customers and working with our customers. I've invited them all to a 2-hour session to talk about recurring moments in our business. And my belief is that there are lots of recurring moments that happen in the customer experience that we have not figured out a way to systematize and to repeat a predictable outcome that's positive for the customer, right? And my hope is that we're going to think deeply about that, and the team is going to come up with ways to solve for that. I heard this example, and I witnessed this. So, and I experienced it myself. Several years ago, I had a dog that passed. My dog Boss, miniature pinscher, he was amazing. He used to come in the office. He was remarkable. He passed away, and I had a recurring food subscription for his dog food via Chewy.
Right.
And a couple weeks after he had passed, I get the dog food coming in the mail. I had forgotten to cancel it. I think a lot of people probably do. And turns out when you call Chewy and you're in this position of telling them that your dog passed away and you have dog food that you have no need for and you just spent $30 on, they will every single time tell you that that they're sorry for your loss, that you're welcome to give the food to home because of health reasons you can't return the dog food, and they 2 days later they will send you flowers.
Amazing.
I'll buy dog food from Chewy forever
Right.
after that experience.
Yeah.
They identified a recurring moment that probably happens often, and they figured out a way to create more connection with that. I think AI is one of the tools, one of many tools that will help us identify things that recur in that service delivery experience, because we're in a services-based business, and our people can focus on the things that are most important, creating connection. And I think that when we read headlines like this, I think there's
Mhm.
this real big opportunity for us to go all in on that. Do you guys think I'm nuts?
No, I think you're exactly right. And to me, it's like it's using the tool in the right way, right? There is a way to use these tools that loses that connection. That you're writing an essay, you're writing code, you're writing something, and you don't know what the output of it was, and you kind of throw it away. Or you can use it to kind of dig into those metrics and build cool things with it and engage even more. But you have to be judicious about how you're using it. I think is
That's
what's
a
going to
really
be
good point. That's
I
a
think
really
you're right. It's what is the study not seeing? Because undoubtedly, right, brain function goes down. You're not spending
Sure.
time saying, how can I be creative? But the biggest value I've seen AI bring in our business and give to our customers is the gift of time back
True.
for them to make those connections, move on to more strategic projects, and take away. It doesn't have to be menial. It can be meaningful tasks, but that just take less time, and that's a gift, right? The
Mhm.
wealthiest people in the world, what do they do with that money? They try to buy more time.
I call
And
it
that's
shit work. So
okay.
I do a whole bunch of shit work. I'm like, all right, sure, maybe like stretches my brain at that moment for something that seems maybe worthless at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe the study doesn't capture what is the task, what is the thing. Does it matter ultimately? But we're seeing companies like Amazon now extend this, I call it shit work removal with AI into their workforce, right? And they're starting to talk about like, well, maybe we won't hire as many people going forward.
So
I'll be interested to see how that plays out because I think there's a lot of opportunity here where maybe some people in some positions kind of stop existing, but I think we're talking about like Darcy Analytics, right?
Sure.
Darcy can now start analyzing things, and there's a whole business intelligence play here. I think there's a play here where your VP can go in and start analyzing data and finding interesting points. Now he needs to hire more business analysts and build that team out and hire building repeatable dashboards and those kind of graphics. I think we're
Yeah.
just going to see a shift in the workforce, not necessarily a reduction.
So this is a good topic around like where do you put your people hours and people
Yeah.
time, right? So for context, we have a customer. They have an analytics team, like a traditional BI team, and they're doing things like Power BI and whatever. And it sucks. It sucks. It's just lots and lots of data, and someone's got to figure it out, and you don't know where it is or how it's structured or where it should look like, and it's a giant pain in the ass. And every time their executive team asks for something, they have to go build it, which takes days, weeks. Sometimes they get it wrong and they try it again. It's horrible. And so we rigged up our tool Darcy to their data set. And now their executive team can ask for things like how well are their services faring? Are they generating revenue in different places faster or otherwise? And Darcy has the ability to act like an analyst. It can do complex math. It can do things like actually build out forecasting models and show it to them right then and there. Nice, pretty graphs. And before, that would take a team, right? If in the future, if it doesn't take a team, do you need the team? Can you get by with half the team?
technology's
Well,
always
or do
been.
you start doing more analysis because you can find more data points and now there's more work for that team to do?
Or if they do something that's way more useful
Right.
than the back and forth shit
Yep.
that gets it wrong every single time to say, oh, okay, this is actually something useful we want to have. Let's just focus on that particular thing.
Yep.
Technology's always been disruptive.
Yeah.
That's one of the kind of fun things about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
It's probably what draws all four of us into it.
Oh yeah.
it attracts a talent pool, and it's always fun until it disrupts your job.
Right.
And when you have a headline like Andy Jassy, the head of AWS, saying that AI is going to meaningfully constrict their workforce, as someone who came from Amazon and has a lot of Amazonian friends still, that was buzzworthy, right? I
Yeah.
think people get concerned when you have someone at that level in that position, not talking about, right? It's a very different story if Andy says AI is going to reduce our customers' workforce, but he said it's going to affect our workforce. And AWS has been growing, growing, growing. Amazon's been growing, growing, growing. And Andy now has all of Amazon. For him to say that, it makes the headlines.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a trend though. You've seen that from IBM's leadership. You've seen it from other companies. There's like one company, I forget the name of them offhand, where like they fired their entire customer support rep team. And they're like, AI will do it. And like 2 months pass, and it's like a clusterfuck. The whole
Just
time.
kidding.
It's no, seriously. They're like, I gotta go back and hire
Edit, undo.
most of that workforce back again, and they took a ton of shit for it,
Yeah.
right? Over and over and over again. And so it's interesting, just like what is the boundary line? How much is too much, sort of in this world? I don't think we really know yet, right?
So we're talking about AI replacing humans.
yeah,
But Apple says bullshit.
kind of.
That AI doesn't reason at the same level a human does.
Right.
You've heard this. What do you think? Is that true?
I think today, sure. Next week, maybe not so much. Next month, next year, right? I mean, we're on this path where every month there are new tools coming out, new integrations, and it does feel like it's just getting smarter at a rapid pace. I mean, I read the Apple paper. It's interesting. But just for them to say that today it can't do that doesn't mean that in the future it won't be able to.
I think the problem is that people keep thinking about this stuff as the LLM. And when you think of a reasoning model, you think of the LLM, the reasoning LLM, whether that's a Claude model or an OpenAI O3 or O1, any of the O models or reasoning models. I think that's just wrong. So, for example, an LLM on its own can't access what your business does and how you operate and what's good and what's bad. It can't on its own go tell you what's happening in the world today. It can't on its own interact with a website and buy something for you. It just can't, right? So I think reasoning is a sort of unfair expectation as to, is it good, right? I think the reality is it's all about how do you connect these systems in place, whether it's agents and LLMs and API integrations and more. And I think the first company that does that well is going to feel quite literally like a reasoning experience or like a more true to form experience that I think Apple is saying, no, it's not today. I think it's like a better Siri, right? We're talking about. It's a better Google Assistant.
Well, Justin, you run a technology company and one which uses AI internally extensively. Obviously, I have an impression of how AI has helped me in my role, how our team, the sales team does it. How do you think about, hiring plans, growing the people side of things in this new reality where there's AI, lots of AI, different tools and agents available?
I think it's interesting because I feel like we don't use enough tools, we don't experiment enough, and we feel as though the stakes are very high for our customers and the outcomes that we deliver for customers, that we are actually very conservative when in comparison. So, a business looking at us from the outside or an individual looking at us from the outside might think that we use way more than we actually do. I try every single day in my own work. I play two roles for Innovative. I play the owner role, being the majority owner of the business. I play the CEO role. And those are actually two different roles, and sometimes they're actually in conflict. In each of those roles, I really try to use AI in something that I'm doing. I was in a meeting today. I was playing the CEO role, and it was very evident that we were running into a roadblock. And I was the only one at the table that said, well, why didn't we start this meeting 15 minutes ago? Why didn't we open up Claude or Darcy? And why didn't we riff? Why didn't we just prompt and see kind of where we would go? Because it was that kind of meeting. It was actually a go-to-market marketing tactical meeting. It wasn't really about strategy or anything like that. And we came up with great ideas together that honestly were really accelerated, and the catalyst was Claude. I mean, if we didn't have Claude in that meeting, it would have been a very different meeting. I don't see that happening everywhere in the business. I see it happen in parts of the business. I think virtual note takers being added to every virtual meeting, I think like that's a start. But what are people really doing with the notes afterwards? Are people going into Darcy after Darcy is listening and recording and transcribing and interpreting a meeting? I don't think so. And so I think a lot of this is honestly, it's probably very common to what our customers experience, where you have very obvious reasons to use AI in their business, and then you have these very basic reasons you could use AI and you don't. And I think that from my vantage point, it's still super exciting to see kind of where more of that can be exposed. I think the least thing we should be worried about is how much people are using AI in the sense of it being too much. I think the biggest thing we all should be worried about is, are we moving fast enough with the technology, especially as consumer tech really starts to take off with AI. What, for instance, Apple is going to be doing with iPhone and specifically OpenAI. I think that is going to accelerate this whole other wave of use at the consumer level. Because it's going to be so embedded and so integrated into the iPhone experience. Google or Android phone users, they know that's today, like some of that stuff that Apple's coming out with, they've had for quite some time now. So I'm excited about it, and I think that this will continue to propagate.
And even new devices. Like the flip side of that is OpenAI partnering with Johnny Ive, the
Right.
design creator of the iPhone, to market, make, and sell a device that's
Right.
designed with AI as part of it from the ground up.
Do you remember Humane? You ever heard of them? Humane AI. Nothing. No. They're like,
I heard the story of Boss. I'm thinking Humane
they were.
Society.
So they were. I think there were two people coming out of OpenAI early on.
Oh, were they the pin?
Yeah, they made
Yeah.
the Humane pin. It was like a little like gadget Wizmo thing, right? And it's set right here.
Yep.
Okay.
And its intent was to replace your phone.
Yep.
And you could like, boop, right?
Yep.
And you could talk to it, and it was supposed to act like an assistant.
Right.
Like, oh, I'll call an Uber for you. I'll do whatever, right? And if you hold your hand to it, like a laser thing, like you could see writing in case you need to like type in a password or whatever, right? And it failed horribly.
Couldn't take selfies.
Failed, like it couldn't take selfies, right? Failed horribly in market. And it was mainly because a lot of these systems either are really Wi-Fi dependent or need big batteries.
Right.
Or like, so like the design aspect of it is not solved. I'm really interested in seeing what they come up with.
Well, the big issue with that was it's something new. Most people, I don't know about you guys, I don't go around wearing pins very frequently.
I mean,
Well,
Ascots, yes. Pins, no.
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the genius of like the Apple Watch, right, is that it's something people already wear. It's something that's integrated into their lifestyle, and you just give it a whole lot more functionality.
what do you think should be then? What should be the next product?
I think Johnny Ive's going to make a watch.
OpenAI shoes?
Yep. OpenAI shoes.
Ooh.
What would you do with that?
I don't know. Just don't stare at them.
Well, you mentioned, you don't think, Justin, people have a problem with AI in terms of, the bigness of it, right? I think there have been some interesting feedback on some of the big federal contracts, right?
Mm.
Palantir being
Mhm.
one, creating databases, and undoubtedly they would consider themselves an AI company, right? It was OpenAI that just won a $200 million contract with the Defense Department. So we're seeing in the military industrial complex, if you will, widespread adoption of big technologies that seem unknown. I don't think we've seen the output of those yet, but again, making headlines that are really people thinking big about AI and how it changes how we interact.
Do you follow Anduril? So I think it's Anduril. Could be butchered in the name. Think about Palmer Luckey, the guy who made Oculus, right? He sold Oculus to Meta, went off the face of the earth for a bit, came back and said, "I'm starting a military company." He was making
every
fucking
young
VR
man's dream.
headsets, right? He's like, "I'm just gonna make a." And what they do now is they make drones, right? But really complex, fully autonomous, AI-driven drones. We're talking like Predator drone things, fighter jet drones,
Military level.
military. All they're doing is the interconnected drone military, and it's 100% powered by machine learning models, AI systems, and more. And his whole take on it is you can manufacture as much a quantity of something. There's only so many people. So the next war is going to be about who has the most drones or the ability to operationalize and manufacture these AI systems really quickly. And I think they're using all these things like robo-taxis in the market. They're using all the LLM outputs that people are using to help train these systems to be more efficient. So I think the world is changing, quite frankly, at the end of the day. For better or worse. We're going to see it in military, personal lives, our shoes.
Probably for better and worse.
Yeah.
Like anything.
Like anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this has been fun. We got to cut short because Aaron Malloy from our team is throwing the first pitch here momentarily.
3,000 tonight. Let's hear it for Aaron Malloy.